We're joined live out of our nation's capital by Congresswoman Nan Hayworth. Congresswoman Hayworth represents New York's Hudson Valley, a member of the Majority Whip team, and has been actively involved in these debt limit conversations on Capitol Hill. Congresswoman, thank you very much. I assume there's no great news to tell us tonight. We're still at an impasse, correct?
Well, Rich, the great news is that we do have a House majority that's determined to carry out the will of the American people. As you know, the latest polls have told us that over 2/3 of Americans don't want us to raise the debt ceiling at all. We will be responsibly raising the debt ceiling with dollar for dollar, at least cuts in spending and no new taxes. That message is clear.
The polls I'm looking at, Congresswoman, when people are asked where they want to see spending cuts, but a significant plurality also want to see tax hikes on the wealthiest 1%. My question is, why are revenue increases off the table and just spending cuts instead where Republicans want to see the money from?
Well, you know, Rich, the president himself has said it on more than one occasion in recent months that we can't afford to raise taxes right now in this kind of economy. That is, if anything, even more true today than it was months ago. So the fact that we need to put working capital back in the marketplace. We have 14 million Americans waiting for jobs, waiting to join the stream of productive Americans who can contribute actually to our revenue stream for the support of our federal activities. That's what we need to concentrate on. Government doesn't create jobs. Government spending doesn't create jobs. Government is a cost center. We need to put working capital in the marketplace. Increasing taxes will not do that.
I want to come back to taxes in a second, but do we first agree on the consequences? If come August 2nd, the debt limit isn't raised, Andrew just went over for our viewers what is seemed to be accepted fact everywhere else, that it'll be catastrophic to the U.S. economy. Do we at least agree to the stakes? If we don't get this thing done, there's going to be big problems in America.
Well, Rich, we are absolutely serious in the House majority, in the House Republican Conference. Our leaders are completely sincere about resolving this issue as fast as possible, before August 2nd, if we possibly can. It's incumbent upon the President and Senator Reid to listen to what the American people clearly indicated in the massive wave election that we had in November of 2010. They want to see this economy revived, and the President and Senator Reid know that the way we do that is by cutting the size and scope of the federal government,
but I just want to understand one thing, because I've heard two different things, Congresswoman. I heard John Boehner late spring saying that the vote on the debt limit would be the new House majority's first real big adult moment. Have to find a way, he says, to help educate members and help people understand the serious problems that would exist if we don't do it. But then I hear Congressman Cantor saying, hey, 4 or 5 days after the deadline wouldn't be a big deal. I see Congresswoman Bachmann, the presidential candidate, she's saying she'd never vote to raise the debt limit. I'm hearing two different messages, even from within Republican leadership. I just want to get, if it's not raised, do we all agree what's going to happen to interest rates? We're going to have to do defaulting on our full faith and credit. This would be really, really bad for America.
Richard, I think everybody is aware of the stakes. Michelle Bachmann, by the way, speaks for herself as a presidential candidate. She does not speak for the House Republican Conference. I can tell you that as a member. Certainly, Speaker Boehner and Leader Cantor do speak for the Republican Conference. There is not space between them, a room between them about this issue. We are a unified leadership. I have complete confidence in that, and they want to act expeditiously to get this resolved.
Okay. You know the public out there says, well, wait a second here. Let's see what's happened in the last couple of years. Top 1% of this country, they got about 90% of the wealth. And this is capitalism. We love it. You make money. You should be able, to do really well in this system. But when you look what's come down here, average wage earners haven't seen any hikes. More than that here, if you look at the actual net worth, as I said, of the bottom 90%, it has shrunk significantly while it's gone up, especially for those on Wall Street. In terms of the loopholes we're willing to close, what loopholes are the GOP demanding on the financial sector to get our financial house in order?
Well, Rich, let's think even further about the last couple of years and note that since the stimulus program, in fact, our unemployment rate has risen, not fallen as was promised to happen. We have roughly 14 million Americans at least who are desperate for work. That's not going to happen until we get working capital back into our economy. And the way we do that is by assuring those who work and save and invest that they will be able to return those investments and those gains into their businesses and into other investments that will actually grow opportunity.
I understand, but you probably saw the Northwestern report that came out this week. Since 2009, and since the economic recovery, especially of financial institutions, only 1%'s gone to wages, 88% went to corporate profits, CEO pay has jumped 23%. You talk to middle-class America, and we talk about job losses. There was 56,000 jobs created in June. 39,000 were laid off in the public sector from both state, county, and federal jobs. We're laying them off. We're cutting down the government jobs, if you will, the workforce, and obviously that's cutting into whatever job growth we have. People are starting to see the pain, and they're hearing Social Security and Medicare, there may be cuts there. They want to know, where's that shared sacrifice going to be on the top end? If we cut $2 trillion, in spending, shouldn't we have the same number in terms of revenue enhancements on those that can afford it?
Richard, it doesn't work. Raising taxes historically has not resulted in recovery from economic crises. If you look at the work of Alberto Alesina, who's on the economics faculty at Harvard, he's done very good work with Silvia Ardano to show that, in fact, the way out of a fiscal crisis is for governments to cut spending and cut taxes, one or the other or both. That's what gets people to invest in growth. Wall Street Journal had a story this morning about how our small businesses are sitting on the sidelines because they fear what's going to happen. And I talk with men and women around our district who are involved in small business. That creates about 70% of the new jobs in this country, and they are very concerned about being able to afford to keep the employees they have now because there are so many penalties coming down the line with legislation that's already been passed by the previous Congress and this administration. So we need to have a beneficial reassurance to our businessmen, to our enterprises, small and large, that they are going to be able to invest more of what they bring in growth and in this economy. We need to create jobs. Government spending does not create jobs. So, Rich, when we say the federal government's going to take more from the American public, that is a message that it's not going to be beneficial to try to spend more on expanding their businesses because they're going to need to plow those funds into taxes. That's exactly the wrong message to send, and we're not sending that message.
Well, I know that you're a student of history. Bruce Bartlett, who worked for Ronald Reagan as an advisor and worked in the Treasury Department under George Bush Sr., said, wait a minute. Ronald Reagan, he got some pushback in '82 from the right. He had the largest non-wartime tax increase in American history. Bill Clinton did it also in '93 to, again, battle deficit reduction. And in both cases, the economy came back. You can raise taxes. And going to that small business that I'm sure you talked to in your district, what do you think happens to them, Congresswoman, in a few weeks if you guys don't raise the debt limit? And now all of a sudden they're going to try and borrow money or get credit, and they're going to have to pay interest rates maybe double what they are now. What do you think those same people worried about getting involved in the game, the uncertainty that you guys are having about not raising the debt limit for these folks?
Well, we have said that we will raise the debt limit responsibly with dollar for dollar at least spending cuts, and that's the way to do it. President Obama and Senator Reid are both intelligent men, and I am sure that they will respond to what the American public has said. Richard, 235 members of this House Republican Conference signed a pledge not to raise taxes. We intend to keep that pledge. I certainly ran in District 19 of New York saying I will not raise taxes. President Obama himself has said raising taxes is a bad idea. And he's right. So he understands that this is crucial to going forward. And it is incumbent upon him, and I am sure he will respond before August 2nd.
Do you believe we're going to have a deal?
I do believe we're going to have a deal.
All right, let's end on that optimistic note. Congresswoman, let's hope you're right. I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.